Hello everybody, welcome back to RP1 with Soul Beta. Today we are trying to recreate the Bell X-1, which is the very first plane to break the sound barrier in 1947. Unfortunately, the way that the real solar system engine works, there's no way to start any earlier than 1951, so no matter what we do, we will be late on breaking this milestone. However, it's already 1954 in our gameplay, so we're going to be late on breaking it. Regardless, this is named the X2 up in the top, and that is because I had initially thought that I was capable of utilizing technology that could produce the X2. However, we're missing some very key ingredients, so it'll be a little bit before we can recreate that. However, due to the fact of RSS and realism overhaul in real solar system having such realistic physics and requirements means that having actual proof of concepts of things that actually worked utilizing those real physics is going to be the way to go here. It does seem obvious, but as a longtime Kerbal player, sometimes you just fall into the habits of going, well, you know, I know the basics of aerodynamics, so I'll just kind of wing it, so to speak. But nonetheless, by following a tried and true method, we're actually going to use a more powerful engine than the X1, but that's just because we have the ability to. But anyways, by following the tried and true design of this, we can more accurately hit the same achievements and stuff, and those are the contracts that we're going to need to do. And we did, in the last episode, well, the last flying episode, we did manage to use our supersonic jet trainer to complete one of the contracts to go supersonic, but we can't rely on that for everything, especially some of the contracts require you to have a rocket engine and not a jet. So it would have been better if we had built this probably in the first episode, gotten it out into production, obviously with the lesser engine, but we could have started the X-Plane program a lot sooner. But once again, I decided not to stress myself out so much with the timeline, trying to stick too much to the timeline. So it's about here that I start looking at the actual length and width specifications of the craft, and I realize, you know, I just kind of eyeballed the shape of. I was trying to copy the shape of it, but I was eyeballing the width of it. So we went for the historical 1.5 meters. It's 1.53, but we'll just kind of keep it there. Good enough. This isn't going to be an exact replica. It's going to be my best attempt at an approximation. We don't quite get the tail as perfect as we'd like to, because I feel like there's a little bit of an offset there and kind of a tilt upwards, which I didn't managed to include. I didn't see an option for an offset, so regardless. Anyways, we are going to kind of try to perfect the shape of the fuselage first, because that will kind of dictate where everything else goes, and if we have to start making changes to that, you know, much later down the line when we're dealing with wings and tail fins and things like that, it's just going to make everything a whole lot harder. So we're going to take this one step at a time into three categories. There's going to be the fuselage, there's going to be the tail fins, and there's going to be the wings. Here, I don't like clipping engines in RP1, so I like to build this little shroud, but it's still a fuel tank, but just hollow on the inside to accommodate for the width of the engine, so it's not just clipped into the back with a flat end. It's nice. Some people like using fairings for this. I like that design as well. I just don't. I don't know why I don't use it as much. Maybe I'll start doing when I start needing to save weight everywhere that I can. Then I'll do that. But for now, I like this kind of integrated design. It keeps the engine tucked in, like in the photo above. Photo above is from Wikipedia, but it is you know, very classic. Probably actually, sorry, I got the image from Wikipedia, but this is probably, you know, in the NASA historical records. Yep, we just looked it up. It is property of NASA and free to use, and so we are going to just go ahead and leave that up on the screen so we can kind of keep an eye on our progress. Because of the fact that we are trying to match the design as closely as possible, it gives you as the viewer a good frame of reference for how we're doing along the way. And I am trying to keep the dimensions, like I mentioned, very realistic, as realistic as I can. So I want to, that way I can be sure to achieve the same milestones that the historical flights did in the X-plane program. I think that's going to be my approach moving forward on the Sol Beta playthrough. As you see here, we're going to now move on to the tail fins. I'm happy with the shape. It's not exactly correct, but it is the best that I can do currently. I will try to learn how to kind of fudge your way through procedural parts to get the exact shape you want in a little bit. But for now, I'm just going to try to move forward with this series, like I was saying, with the intention of trying to do a lot more historically accurate recreations. May have to take a little more time to make sure I get my designs right, but it's been a lot of fun learning about rocket history as I go along. I had to do more research into this plane than I had thus far, so I was pretty happy being able to come up with something that I think worked out pretty well. And if you, I mean, you probably saw the plane in the thumbnail, so not terrible, if I may say so myself. But anyways, we are now working on the tail fin, and it is a fixed thing with a control surface, so we're going to have to put that in. But as you see here, there's a little fixed part at the top to keep the edge of the control surface away from the aerodynamics, to keep it nice and protected. So we're going to utilize a secondary, we're going to utilize that wing shape to kind of put a cap on there. We do want, I didn't actually look up the dimensions of the wings themselves, like the thickness of the tail fins and things like that, the thickness of the wings. So that actually is speculative. I didn't actually think to look into that specific of a detail of the actual width, the thickness of the tail fin itself. So I just kind of eyeballed it here and used my best judgment of what would be thick enough to withstand aerodynamic pressure and would be thin enough that it wouldn't be a ridiculous shape or weight to it. So now becomes the tedious and long process of fine-tuning minute details on the tail fin design, or on the control surfaces, in order to get them to fit up and line up with the rest of it. Occasionally click on the wrong part. So there's not really much I need to talk about right here. It's just going to be kind of going back and forth. It is sometimes helpful to paint your parts so you have a clear idea of which parts are where. As we can see, the actual moving surface itself I like to paint in orange, so that way I have an idea of how much surface area is going to have control. And then this top part isn't actually a surface area, so that doesn't have any control, but it's nice to have it line up color-wise. Anyways, like I mentioned, there's not really much to be said here, so I'm just going to let the video take over, watch as we fine-tune these, and then we're going to start moving on to the actual wings of the plane, and we'll talk more at that point. I'll see you soon. I don't know where I got this idea that these tail fins were this stubby. Somewhere in my process, I just misunderstood the scale of things here and didn't realize just how wide. You can even see how wide those are in comparison to how stubby these little fins are. We will rectify that. You'll actually see the moment when I realize that that is incorrect. But for now, just, you know, use your imagination that for some reason I thought that this was okay. And you can see that for a moment there, I realized and I figured it out, but lesson was not learned as I brought that in just a little bit tighter to the body. It's just funny to see. It's very interesting watching the building process in after the fact, in the editing process here, being able to speed up the footage and see all the different pieces that came together, all the different mistakes, seeing it happen in 2 times, 3 times speed. You can learn a lot. I've mentioned it before, how doing videos like this, Kerbal videos, Kerbal missions often are kind of like an athlete reviewing footage of whatever event they competed in. And it's at this point that I start to get a better idea of scale. So I'm raising that tail, the yaw aspect of the tail fin a little higher, so that way we have a little more room and control. I really wish I had figured out how to do the clipping to get that curve down just right that the tail fin has, because that looks so neat. This whole plane actually looks very interesting, and I kind of do want to be a little bit better at my builds and my designs, especially specific and recreation type things. So yeah, I'm going to attempt that a little bit more. The next plane that we build will be built for the mission that handled, whatever contract that we end up taking that handles it. We'll try to recreate that as well. So I'm excited. So I renamed it to the X-1 finally, and now comes the time to start working on the actual wings themselves. We got our tail fin down. It is good enough. We'll notice some more of our faults when we eventually do our test flight for this. I had a bug there that wasn't allowing me to select the wings, so I just clicked out and clicked back in, and everything was fine. So now we are going to change the photo and kind of focus specifically on the actual wings themselves, which is a super important part of any plane, the actual design. I realize this now in playing Realism Overhaul and Real Solar System. It's something you kind of take for granted in Kerbal Space Program, proper, is wing design can matter a lot less. You know, you can still achieve high altitude, you can still achieve fast flight, even with square, rectangular, like non-designs or anything like that. But the actual surface area of the wing here matters greatly. So we're going to try to recreate this as much as possible, even down to that tiny little connector bit on the end, little end cap, to keep the the control surfaces safe. We also have the antennas on there. We don't actually have antennas unlocked in this playthrough yet, so we're actually just going to fake that with the use of this procedural wing. But nonetheless, we're going to even kind of go for that. Like I mentioned before, this isn't an exact replica. There are exact replicas out there on Space Dock and Kerbal X. There are YouTubers who can do this much better than I can, and I'm going to actually be trying to learn a lot from them as well, because I started off just like, oh, I need to do this a little bit better so that way, I can achieve the mission. But by the time I was done with this, I had a lot of fun, and seeing it actually work, seeing it actually fly right on the, relatively first try, and especially opening up the FAR information and seeing all green, all the numbers lit up in green was a great feeling. Anyways, now comes the time to work on these. So once again, I will take a step back and just let the music play as we fine-tune the details to get this set up. I am, once again, eyeballing the dimensions here. I did get the width correctly. It was 8.5. However, the actual width of these control surfaces are just spitballing here. Anyways, I will see you soon. And like I mentioned before, adding color to the parts makes it easier to see where things don't line up. As you see, our actual moving surfaces here are very uneven, so we can go ahead and fine-tune that a little bit better with the use of some color. So I'm relatively happy with that. I think the design looks well enough. I feel like it's not the exact geometry of it, but close enough. However, our center of lift is in front of our center of mass, so I initially am going to just move that back, easy enough. However, it would have been a better idea to actually line that up with precisely where it was on the craft itself, especially considering that I could simply just readjust the amount of fuel in each part of the craft and balance out our center of mass that way, which I will end up doing anyways, not to balance out the mass, but to end up saving some weight. So we're going to go ahead and paint this all. We're going to paint it all white. As you can see from the thumbnail, that's not our final design, but that's okay. It's an interesting little look. I was trying to keep in line with the supersonic jet trainer, but nonetheless, I do enjoy what we came up with. We're going to go ahead and throw on some retractable landing gear. In my research, I made sure to note what kind of landing gear it had. Very interested in the Bell X-2 because that was utilizing landing skiffs, which I've never actually played around with any kind of landing with a sled aspect. So pretty excited to try that out. I feel like that's going to be very, very dangerous, but excited nonetheless. We're going to go ahead and auto-strut it. I don't know if we need to, but yeah, look at that. All green lines, except for this one right here. I'm not sure if that was an error in that, but I did realize that I didn't lower my landing gear when I actually ran that report. So nonetheless, we've got 7 minutes of burn time, which is significantly more than we need. So we're going to go ahead and limit the actual fuel in here. And that will lighten up the craft, which will be nice, and it'll fly a little bit better. But that also, like I mentioned, adjusted our center of mass, so we can fly a little straight. So I don't typically include the test flight footage. I try to keep it solely to the actual flights and things that matter. But we learned a bit in this one. Particularly, you can see immediately I'm like struggling to pitch upwards, and that is due to that tiny little control surface right there on the back. I do end up adding some pitch control to the large control surface in the middle of the closer to the fuselage on the wings, but eventually we will just extend out those tail fins. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a different design, olive green. I like the idea of the military aspect to the X-plane program, so we're going to try to keep that going. So as you see here, we are now learning proper scale and proportions here, so we're going to extend those out and give it a lot more control and a little more width on the control surface. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to end my narration here. Something has come up. We were almost done with the plane design. We just have a few more steps to do and finalize. A couple of test flights we're going to include in the video so you can see how those designs came into effect. And we're going to also see how it handles the high altitude contract as well. And then after that, we are going to run the mission. I have everything set, so we'll be able to see it in action, not only in the test flight, but with real consequences and no quick saves and all that. So I do really enjoy going through my thought process and the discoveries I make along the way. I feel like you can learn a lot through a playthrough and through learning how someone builds. Sometimes you learn lessons along the way for your own playthroughs. So I do apologize for having to step out early, but unfortunately I won't be able to continue with this episode, but I will be back in the next week with more. We're going to continue on the X-plane program, and if we need to design a new plane, maybe the Bell X-2, if we have that ability to, we'll do that in the next episode. If not, we'll see if we can fly the X-1 on a few other missions. We also have a couple rocket launches to do as well, so I'm excited for that. I have to say, Soul Beta has been very stable thus far, and has looked absolutely gorgeous, so I've been really happy that I started this new playthrough Because not only has it given me a lot of fun doing the X-plane again, but now that I'm going to try to challenge myself to be a little more realistic with my designs, just makes it all that more gratifying. But anyways, enjoy the rest of the episode, enjoy the test flights that we do, and the actual mission itself. Reinhold Krauss is quickly becoming an ace pilot, and mission today is just another great one under his belt. Yeah, you see how those lifting surfaces help so much more if they're just a little bit wider? Yeah, anyways, have a good one, and I'll see you later. What did I tell you? Ace pilot all around. But anyways, that is where I'm going to leave today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward for more RP1 with Soul Beta. If you did think about subscribing, drop me a like, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.